In this video, I'm going to show you how to overcome literally every single life insurance objection. Some of the ones that we're going to cover are, I need to think about it, I need to talk to my wife or my husband or whoever, that's too expensive, I'm just going to wait, I can't afford it, and so many more. So it's a little bit of a longer video, but we're going to get into the tactical stuff so that you not only understand what to say, but why you're saying it so you can use this to close more deals. With that being said, enjoy the video. I'm so unbelievably excited to show you guys this. This is how to overcome every single life insurance objection that you can possibly get. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, I'm going to start off with the triple A's. And no, I'm not talking about batteries or Alcoholics Anonymous, even though that's just two A's. What we're going to be talking about here is the triple A's of overcoming objections. So I'm going to start off with a question, right? Which is, how many objections are there actually? At the end of the day, like, are there 20, 30, 100? In all reality, there's literally only 3 possible objections that you can get. Now, you may be looking at me through this screen like I'm crazy, but when I explain it to you, it's going to make so much sense. So before we do that, before we jump into that, let's cover the basics, and that is the triple A's, which again are not batteries or Alcoholics Anonymous, which I know is just 2 A's. This is the triple A's of overcoming objections. So essentially what this is a framework to use every time that you overcome an objection that someone gives you in a sale. So the first thing that you want to do is agree with the prospect, right? Whenever we're in a sales encounter, the last thing that we want to do is become confrontational or start debating or arguing with the prospect. That's not what this is at all, right? So first we want to agree. Perfect, Ms. Jones. I think that makes perfect sense. Next, we want to answer the objection. This is where the actual skill comes in, and this is what we're going to cover in this video, is the answers and the questions to ask. But basically, we're going to answer, which put simply is just giving a logical reason as to why what they're saying doesn't really make sense, or just something that kind of contradicts what they're saying, right? But again, we're staying in agreement. So this is answering the objection. And the last part is going to be asking a question. So whenever someone gives you an objection, you always want to end off on a question. Because if they object and then you just say a statement, they're just going to keep objecting. So you need to ask them a question that they then have to answer. So let's look at an example with everyone's favorite objection, which you typically get within the first few seconds of a life insurance call, which is, I never filled that out, or I don't remember filling that out. So the agree part is, no worries. I don't really sit around thinking about this kind of stuff either. Next, we're going to answer the objection. In this case, we are basically just confirming information and telling them that, hey, obviously they did fill out the form because they listed their beneficiary as this. So, Ms. Jones, it looks like you listed your kids as your beneficiary here on the form. Is that correct? So now we're asking them a question. We're not saying, well, yes, you did because blah, 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 blah. We're agreeing. Okay, no problem. I mean, I usually don't like sit around thinking about life insurance forms either. But it does look like you listed your kids here as your beneficiary here on the form. Is that correct? So agree, answer, ask. And I'm going to show you guys a bunch more objections. We're going to give you guys everything you need. So whenever you overcome an objection, whenever I overcome an objection, you're going to agree with them. Again, you're not becoming combative. It's not a debate. And then you're going to answer the objection, which, like I mentioned before, is where most of the skill comes in. And that's what we're actually memorizing and practicing. And then the last step is just a question, right? You always want to end the objection on a question. So next, I'm going to talk about objection ammo, which is the core concept to this entire video. So what is objection ammo? Never heard that term before. Well, it's because we made it up. So basically, overcoming objections is just a game of stamina, right? The prospect is going to come up with as many reasons as they possibly can not to do it. And then you are going to come up with as many reasons as you can for them to do it, right? So they're trying to come up with reasons that are, in their mind, they can justify with logic as to why they shouldn't buy. And you're trying to come up with as many logical reasons to overcome their logic as to why they should buy, right? And whoever has the more reasons for their case wins. And when I say wins, that doesn't necessarily mean that you get the sale, but it means that they have to tell you the root objection, which then you can then address and have a higher chance at closing the sale. So that'll all make more sense in just a second. The problem is, and this is why we created this concept called objection ammo, is here's what most agents do. I call it that they only have one bullet in their chamber. So let's say I'm on the phone with someone and the prospect says, Tim, this sounds great and all, but I just need to think about it. Most salespeople and most insurance agents are going to say, well, what do you need to think about? You sound like an idiot, right? Because you're becoming combative Now all of a sudden the walls go up, they're on guard, and you have no chance at closing a sale. They're just going to respond with something, oh, well, everything's great. Like, they're not going to tell you the reason because they already saw what you did when they gave you some pushback, which is you became combative, and they don't want to be in an uncomfortable sales situation. So they're just going to throw up a smoke screen and disappear into the distance forever. So what we need to do is, instead of just having one bullet, because when you respond with that and then they respond again, all of a sudden you have nothing to say. Okay, well, and then you just go straight to setting the appointment and nothing ever happens. They disappear forever. So essentially what you need to have is layers of objection overcome, so that if they say this, you say this, and you need to have more than just one line memorized. You need to have ammo of objection so that whenever someone gives you something, you have something to respond with. And if they object to that, you have another thing to respond with. Remember how I was talking about the stamina game? You're basically just trying to outlast them on logical reasons. And we are going to arm you with more logical reasons, aka objection ammo. So my goal is obviously to arm you with that objection ammo. And basically something to kind of remember is a lot of people will go for those Hail Marys, right? The first time someone gives an objection, they'll go straight to, okay, well, what we can do is push this payment 30 days out so that you have time to think about it and this and that and blah, 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 blah. But if you're throwing Hail Marys every time, you're going to get your passes intercepted. And what I mean by that in insurance speak is it's just not going to work. Because if you're throwing Hail Marys every single time, you're always going for, let's push this out 30 days so that, you can look over the policy. You're not actually addressing the root objection, which is something else. Either the price is too expensive, or they just don't want to make the decision, or they actually want to talk to somebody else, or they're worried about this, or they don't trust you. If you're just throwing those Hail Marys, you're not doing anything. So that's why we need to run the ball and tire out the defense. Sometimes we just have to run the ball, take it a little bit further. We can't just with one line, blast out everything and immediately get the sale. We kind of have to move the needle incrementally sometimes. And we want to layer our objections, right? So sometimes the way you overcome an objection is multiple questions, which I'll show you guys in just a moment, instead of just going straight one-liner, right? We don't want to show all of our cards at once. So I know I mentioned to you guys that there's only 3 objections. Let me actually get into what those are. So this is a framework that I stole from Alex Hormozy. And basically what it's called is the blame onion. So what it looks like is, the way that he kind of explains it is that people will blame things on either circumstances, other, or themselves. And so whoever they blame it on is the one who has power over them. So power follows the finger of blame. So if I say, as an example, if I'm an insurance agent and I blame everything on the leads, then I have no chance of being successful, because the only thing that controls that is the leads, right? So if you blame yourself, you have control. If you blame something else, they have control. And so he kind of turns this, and we use this in a sales conversation. So essentially, the 3 things that people will blame or object with are they're blaming circumstances, which I'll jump into the different sections of circumstances in a second. They're blaming others, meaning I don't have the power to make this decision. Someone else has to make it for me. Or they're blaming themselves, which is literally just, I don't want to confront this decision, or I'm too inadequate to do this, right? And so essentially what people will typically start with is a circumstances objection, and then an others objection, and then a self. So we're moving inward on the onion as we're overcoming objections. So it's like layers. We start at the outer layer and we're peeling back the layers to get to the root objection so we can actually close the deal. So when I say there's only 3 objections, what I mean is they're objecting with circumstances, they're objecting with others, or they're objecting with themselves, right? So every single objection is going to fall into one of these 3 categories. And each category is like the layer of an onion. So once we get to the center, we can address the root objection and get to the sale. So let's start with circumstances, which, as you guys can see with my little diagram here, is the outer layer. So circumstances. There's typically three things that people will blame when it comes to circumstances. Time, meaning now is not a good time, or I don't have enough time, or whatever. Value, which is either it's too expensive or I can't afford it, which is actually different. Those are 2 different things, which I'll explain. And then fit, which is something specific about the program is not for me. Okay. And then next we have others, right? This is the middle layer. This is where, somebody else has to make this decision for me. I don't have the authority to make this decision without talking to someone else. This comes in the form of I need to talk to my wife, my kids, my dog, my whatever, right? That's others. And then self is basically avoidance. I don't want to make a mistake, so I have to think about it. The worst objection you can get, but it's actually not, because it's pretty easy to overcome. So it comes in, I need to think about it, have to think about it, not sure, I need today. A lot of uncertainty surrounding self. So let's start with circumstances. Again, this is blaming something external, right? Let's start with time. So I'm going to show you guys the objection ammo to overcome a time objection. So there's a couple different ways that time comes up, right? I have a lot going on right now, which with final expense and life insurance typically means bills, right? I want to do this, but I just had to replace my refrigerator, my air conditioner, my whatever, foot bath, whatever it is, right? I have a lot going on right now. I have a lot of bills, medical bills, you know it. That's macro, right? So I have a lot going on right now. Like now is not a good time. And then micro is like looking at the individual day. So I don't have enough time in the day to talk to you right now. And then you try to set an appointment and it's like, well, I don't have any time, right? So I'm going to show you guys the different ways to overcome each of these objections. And just to give you guys some context, the way that we came up with these objection ammo is trial and error, right? Testing it, doing different things. And then also me and my business partner, Julian, we sat down for like 10 hours straight and just drilled each other back and forth with these different objections. And our whole goal was the person objecting or the person role playing as the prospect. We were trying to box them in so much that they had nothing to say, right? The whole goal was like, I don't know what to say other than to buy from you. So just to kind of pre-frame this. So essentially, I'm going to have to be both. So I might look a little crazy, talking to myself, but we're going to kind of roll with it. So macro seasonal. I have a lot going on right now. This is bills, right? So I'll give that objection. Yeah, this looks great, but I want to do it later. I just have a lot going on right now with bills and, everything that's happening. So here's my response. Okay, I totally get it. Most of my clients are on a fixed income and things are crazy right now with the economy. So you're planning on getting coverage once things calm down. Is that correct? You guys notice agree, answer, ask. Yeah. I'm going to get coverage once things calm down. It's just right now is really crazy. Okay. And so after you've gotten coverage and, kind of protected your daughter, do you think that it's possible that, maybe in the next 10 years, you have an unexpected bill that pops up, like your car breaking down or an unexpected medical bill, something like that? I mean, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's possible. Of course, unexpected bills come up all the time. Okay. And I'm guessing if that happens, you're still planning on keeping this coverage for the long term to make sure that, your daughter gets paid. Is that correct? Yeah. I mean, what's the point of getting insurance if I can't keep it? Okay. So since you're planning on keeping the policy for the long term and you said you may have more unexpected bills that pop up in the future, don't you think it makes sense for us to find a policy that you can afford even when bills pop up? That way you can keep the policy forever and guarantee that your daughter gets paid. And so basically what I'm doing here is I'm dissecting their logic. They're saying that right now is not a good time because I have bills. So I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But when the bills go away, you're going to get this, right? Yes. Okay. Now, when the bills come back, are you still going to keep it? Yes, because bills will come back. Yes. Okay. So then wouldn't it make sense for us to find something that fits in your budget when bills are up so that when bills come up again, you can keep it? And so you see I'm dissecting that logic there so that there's no like real objection. You can't really say anything to that because it just doesn't really make sense. Like there's no logic to justify why you wouldn't do it. Because you have bills now, you'll have bills later. We need coverage, period. So if they keep objecting, then that's when you start to go for the Hail Marys. So this is, if they keep objecting like, yeah, I mean, I just need some time, so then you go, okay, I totally understand that. And so does the insurance company. I just called you out of the blue and I wouldn't expect you to be able to pay today. That's why we can space it out for up to 30 days so that you have time to kind of get everything together. What day do you get paid? So you see, if I would have started with this one, they could just easily object and now I have nothing in the chamber. Whereas now they've already agreed that they want to do it and I've put my logic first. So now I can go for the Hail Marys. So what day do you get paid? Now I'm just going to go straight into confirming information and starting to set up the app, spacing it out 30 days. If they keep objecting there, that's whenever you guys see this, and I'm going to give you guys access to this doc in the description of this video. Whenever you see this, I totally understand story time. That's where you're telling a story that is going to exemplify why they should do it. So essentially, a story that Julian has used, and I can link a video where we show the story stuff in the description. But basically, what you're going to do is paint a picture for them of somebody who delayed this and then how it negatively affected them, right? You're going to find a story. It can be yours or a coworker of yours, or even our story, and basically just tell that story to exemplify your point, right? Now, if they keep objecting after that, you just go to price drop. So, okay, no worries. It sounds like, this may be a little bit out of your budget. Let's find something that's going to be affordable for you right now so you can keep it regardless and whenever bills come up. So those are the layers of the objection. If they keep objecting now, what they'll typically do after going through all of these layers is they'll start to objection hop, and now you jump to a different one. So I have a lot going on right now. I have a bunch of bills, whatever. The next thing we're going to talk about is I don't have time in the day. Now, this is one that you'll usually get on the front end of the call. And so you have to go through these fast to keep the person on the phone. Okay, perfect. So the first thing you're going to do with this is basically just steamroll this objection, right? So no worries. I totally understand. It only takes a few minutes to see if you qualify. And then I'm going to jump into the next question and start to go through, right? With a lot of these, you just steamroll over them, essentially ignore them, and then try to keep going. But if they keep objecting, no, I really don't have time. Okay, no worries, Ms. Jones. I know I just called you out of the blue. I have some time available later. Which time works for you better? And then I'm going to say 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, morning or afternoon, today or tomorrow, right? Always do that two options whenever you're setting the appointment. So then if they keep objecting, right? Like, look, Ms. Jones, I totally get it. Everyone does have the same 24 hours. It's really, at the end of the day, it's just how you allocate them. So my question is, are you willing to allocate your hours to something that's going to make sure your family is protected after you're gone, right? So that's kind of using that logic to overcome that time objection. And typically after these first two, you'll be able to either set the appointment or they're going to hang up on you. And if they don't, you have this one in your arsenal as well. So this don't have time in the day, that one's not super common. Usually if somebody's like serious about buying, they're going to either set an appointment or have the conversation with you on the phone. The next one is I'm just going to wait. So this is the last one when it comes to time. You'll get this one a lot, right? I want to do this. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to put it off, which is basically saying like, I don't want to make the decision, but it's still a time one. So with this one, we're actually going to lead with this 30-day window here, right? We're actually going to lead with this 30-day window. So, hey, Tim, this sounds great. I want to do it. I'm just going to wait. Give me until October, right? Okay, no, it's October now, so give me until November. Yeah, no, perfect. That makes total sense. I know I just called you out of the blue and I wouldn't expect you to pay today. That's why the insurance company will actually let us space it out up to 30 days. What day do you get paid? And then you're going to go straight into the application, right? And this is, I'm just going to wait. Now, if they keep objecting, right, here's what you're going to do. Okay, no, I totally get it. So you are planning on getting coverage eventually. You just need some time. Is that right? And this is a yes question because they just told you that. You're just asking and confirming. Yeah, I just need some time. Okay, yeah, no, I totally understand. Just so I know, because I'm on this call to make sure that you and your family are taken care of. Between now and when you do get the insurance, if something were to happen to you, how is your daughter going to pay for that $10,000 bill? And then they're going to tell you the plan, which is they have no plan. You can then attack that and go straight into confirming the value, repeating the value, and then going into the app, right? Because whenever you ask this question, you're going to force them to admit that they have no plan, right? They keep objecting there. You're going to go into the story, tell a story of somebody that, didn't put this decision off and wasn't able to get insurance. Again, I'm going to link a video in the description below that will show you guys kind of how that looks. And then if they keep objecting there, then you just bet, look, I totally get it. Let's look at something that's going to be a little bit lower and is going to be in your budget so we can start sooner rather than later. Price drop. So that is everything with time. Now, next up, I'm going to show you guys the money/value, right? So remember how I told you guys that it's too expensive and I can't afford it are actually two different objections. Here's what I mean. So money is I can't afford it, meaning I literally don't have enough money in my bank account to make this payment happen. So here's kind of how this looks. The first thing we want to do is go straight for a price drop. The reason why is because with insurance, we don't want to convince somebody and sell somebody into paying something they don't think they can afford, because they will charge back and they will cancel. So we always want to be open to price dropping. In fact, sometimes you should force people into price dropping or push them to price drop before signing them up to avoid chargebacks. So essentially what this looks like is, this looks good, but I really just can't afford it at the moment. Okay, no worries. My goal is to find something that fits into your budget, so you can comfortably afford to keep this for the rest of your life. There's no point in getting life insurance if you don't have it in place when you pass away. Would it help if we looked at something that was a little bit closer to, and then when I say $20 to $40 less, I mean $20 to $40 less than what you quoted them at. So let's say I quoted them at 80 to 100. Would it help if I was able to give you something closer to like the $60 to $40 range, right? So I'm dropping $20 to $40. Or let's say I do 120, 100. Would it be better if I, did something closer to the $100 to $80 range? Would that be helpful? Right? So I'm price dropping. If they're like, no, that's still out of my budget, price drop again by 20 to 40 bucks. If they still are like, hey, this doesn't fit into my budget, then you're going to say, okay, well, I want to find something that's affordable for you. What would fit best into your budget? And so at this point, you're literally just leaving the floor open. Like, tell me what you can afford, because you need something as opposed to nothing, right? So then what you'll find is if somebody's going to keep objecting here, they're basically just being difficult. And so now we're going to do, this is one we got from Andy Elliott. And so basically you're just going to go into this. Well, okay, I totally get that, Ms. Jones. I understand how everything's tough with the economy. Let me ask you a question though, because there's a reason you're on this call with me. In the last 30 seconds of your life, do you want on the worst day of their life when you're gone for your daughter to be protected? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question. They can only answer yes or no. They're going to say yes. Yes, I do. Okay. Because if you do, we need to make sure that you have coverage. Because if you don't want your daughter to be protected, it's not important. It's not important. Would you agree? They're going to agree. Yes, it would not be important if I didn't want them to be protected, but they do want them to be protected. And so now we just need to find the money, which basically means we kind of open up and look at their finances. Well, now that we've established that this is important for you, how do you think we should go about paying for this? Because it's important to have something as opposed to nothing. And so this is kind of the way that you want to overcome, I can't afford it. The nice thing about this with the product that we sell, insurance, is we can price drop pretty much as low as we want. And so basically what you're going to do is you're going to price drop until they say this is not enough coverage. And then you just need to find that middle ground of where it's something they can afford and the amount of coverage is going to do something for them. But also it's important to remember and also to remind them that having something is better than having nothing. So that is, I can't afford it. Again, just price drop and price drop and price drop until they're like, nothing fits into my budget. And then you're going to go into this Andy Elliott close. And if they still are objecting, you're going to just have an open and honest conversation about their finances and find the money for them. So that is, I can't afford it. Now, value is that's too expensive. The difference is I can't afford it means I don't have the money for it. That's too expensive means I think that payment is too high for the value or coverage that I'm getting. So here's kind of how you want to object to that or respond to that objection. So prospect says that's too expensive. Okay, no worries. Let's find something that works for you. Is the monthly payment too high, or were you under the impression that it would be less money for more coverage? So here what we're finding out is, can they not afford it, meaning we would go back up to this one, or is it a value question, which then we would continue along this path? Well, honestly, I've seen a bunch of stuff out there where I could get insurance for $9.95, and this price just looks crazy. Now, that's obviously Colonial Penn, so you would address that. But in this situation, let's just say I thought I would be able to get more coverage for less money. Okay, look, Ms. Jones, I totally understand. Because I'm a broker, I was actually able to shop the entire market for you. And of all of the companies out there, with your COPD, this one is going to be the one that's going to give you the most amount of coverage for the best rate. They're also going to give you X benefits. So for example, some of these companies will give you like, they'll help you, you're basically doing a value stack. So for example, some of the companies will help you like get wholesale pricing on your funeral. Some of them will like give you a free will, or there's, kind of some extra benefits that will be thrown in there. So if there are, that's where you're going to throw this in, right? They're also going to help you get wholesale pricing on your funeral so that your daughter can actually do your funeral for less, in addition to making sure that your daughter is going to get that $10,000 payment tax-free. Do you see why we ended up going with this company as opposed to everyone else? So we're basically putting it onto them. Hey, do you understand why I chose this company as opposed to all the other ones? Yes, no, I understand. Okay, perfect. So, out of the 3 options we just went over, which coverage option do you think would be the best for your daughter? So now we're just kind of looping back and going straight into asking for the order again, right? And if they still are objecting to that, then we're kind of going to loop into the Andy Elliott again. So yeah, let me ask you a question because there's a reason you're on the call with me, right? You guys already heard that part. And then this last part here, okay, perfect. So as a broker, I have access to all the companies on your state. We're just going to kind of loop this over and over so that they understand, like, we have all of the options. This is the best option for you. Because if they understand that and they're still putting it off, then there's really another objection there at play. So basically, this is just kind of revamping this. Let's go ahead and knock this out now so we can lock in this rate. That way you don't have to end up paying 2 or 3 times more later down the road, right? So this is the that's too expensive one. I'm going to link this whole sheet below this video so you guys can review it. I don't want this video to end up being like 40 minutes long, so I'm going to kind of run through a little bit faster. So next is the fit, right? So this is basically something about the program isn't for me. Typically, the 2 most common objections you're going to get with this is either I already have insurance or I never filled anything out. So let's start with I already have insurance. These are ones you're going to usually get in the very beginning. Someone says, oh, I already have insurance. I'm just going to fire back with, oh yeah, perfect. Most of the people I talk to already do. So when you were filling this out, were you looking to add on coverage or get a rate reduction? Most of the people are actually looking to either add on coverage or they want to see if they can get a lower price. If they keep objecting to that, no worries. That's totally fine. I just have to ask you a couple questions before I close out your file. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to start asking them a few questions about their policy, right? So that policy that you're able to get, do you know which company you're able to go with, right? And so they can say something like, oh, well, I got blank company or blank company. Sometimes they won't tell you. And then you just kind of have to keep pressing them a little bit and ultimately just like uncover that information. There's different ways that you can find out what they have, because what you'll realize when you're doing this is like 90% of people don't actually have the right coverage. So you just need to ask questions that are going to uncover that. Like, which company did you go with? Do you know how much you're paying for how much coverage? And as you do this enough, you're going to see that certain rates for certain coverages amount raise red flags. And then you just need to say something like, oh, well, are you sick? Like something kind of like that to raise that doubt so that you can just initiate the conversation and get into everything. But again, this is usually going to come in the very beginning. So it's just kind of like a quick rapid fire thing. And this first line is usually going to get them into the conversation. So that is, I already have insurance. Now let's talk about I never filled anything out. Is respond like this. No worries. I don't usually sit around thinking about this kind of stuff either. It looks like you had listed your beneficiary here as your daughter. Is that correct? And you want to put on that curious tone where it's not like you're accusing them of, hey, you filled this out and you're saying you didn't. You're basically just trying to figure out what actually happened. Because most of the time, when you start confirming that information, it'll immediately jog their memory and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember filling that out. So first, we're going to try to confirm the beneficiary. If that doesn't work, now we're going to go for birthday. Okay, that's really weird. I see here your birthday is listed as December 25th, 1975. Is that right? And then if they're like, no, or yeah, that's right, but I never filled this out. No worries. Yeah, that's really weird. Maybe one of your family members might have sent it in for you. Has anyone ever talked to you about this stuff before? And then you're just going to kind of go into the sale, right? There's not too much that we can really do on the front end with I never filled anything out. So we're just going to confirm the information and then kind of just steamroll it and jump right into everything. Same kind of deal with the I already have insurance, but with that one, you're going to ask more questions to raise doubt. So that is everything for circumstances. Now we're going to move on to the middle layer, which is others. So There's only one type of objection that you get for others, which is authority. So somebody else has to make this decision for me. They're blaming someone else who has the power to make the decision. So this typically comes in the form of, I need to talk to my blank. So here's how you're going to want to address that. Prospect says, I need to talk to my wife, which is the most common one you'll get from men, or I need to talk to my husband, which is the most common one you'll get from women. No, I totally understand. What specifically do you think that your wife wouldn't like about the program? And so what you're doing here is, because the wife is not actually there or the husband's not actually there, they don't know what the wife or husband wouldn't like about the program. So they're just going to say what they don't like about the program. So typically it's going to be like, oh, well, it's just really expensive, and I don't want to do anything that she wouldn't approve of or whatever, right? Now we know, okay, we need to find a different price. So now they're objection hopping. It goes from others to now we got to go back to price. And then we're going to address everything with price. And then sometimes they'll objection hop again and we'll go back to that other one. But in this case, let's say they keep going. Well, no, there's nothing specifically. I just think that, we like to kind of talk these things over before making a big decision. Okay, no, I totally get it. And I'm assuming that your wife would be the one responsible for the bill, right? Most of the time, the person they're talking about would be responsible for the bill. Yeah, my wife would be the one paying for it. Okay, and does she approve of the fact that you don't have any coverage currently? Most of the time, the wife does not approve of the fact that they don't have any coverage currently, because she would be the one paying for it. So they'd be like, no, she doesn't. Or, we haven't really talked about this. And so then you're going to go into the next one. So if they don't approve of the fact that you don't have any coverage currently, why do you think they'd be against you getting coverage? See the logic there? If they don't approve of the fact that you don't have any coverage, why would they be against something they don't already approve of? So then if they keep objecting there, right? Oh, well, yeah, but again, we just like to kind of talk these things over before we make a decision. No worries. Obviously, I don't want to pressure you guys into making a decision. How long do you guys need to talk it over? I want to make sure that you guys don't have to chase me down. So we're almost acting like we're going to go set an appointment. Oh, well, can you give us a week? Whatever timeline they say, you're just going to respond with this. Okay, perfect. And so, Ms. Jones, it sounds to me that you kind of just want to make an informed decision with your spouse. This is another obvious yes question. Like, it's a dumb question. Of course they want to make an informed decision, which is why everyone is going to respond yes. Yes, I just want to make an informed decision with my spouse. And so what this is, when they respond yes, they're taking the bait, because what you reply next is, okay, so why don't we do this? Because to be honest with you right now, you guys don't really have anything to talk about or look over yet. We don't even know if we can get you approved on this policy. So let's go ahead and fill out the application to see if we can even get you approved. And then we'll get the policy sent over to you and your spouse so that you guys can discuss, and we'll space the first payment out till the blank, right? If they say a week, you're going to space it out a week, or space it out 2 weeks. Shoot, so they have more time. Whatever the timeline is, just give them enough time. We'll space it out until the 1st of next month or whatever it is, so that you guys have some time to talk it over. And then you're going to start confirming the information. So I had your first name here as Diane. Is that Diane? And you just go straight into the app. And so again, whenever you give them that, hey, you just want to make an informed decision with your spouse, whenever they take that bait, that next line is going to hit so much harder. Now, if they keep objecting with that, you're going to do another story time, which again is just going to kind of hit home with that point of why, or hit home with the point of like, hey, if you wait, this is the potential downside of what could happen from waiting. And here's an example of somebody that waited. Now, this last layer, once we get through this middle layer of authority, hey, my wife, my spouse, my kids, they have to make this decision for me. Now we're going to move over to self. So now that we're at the middle layer, this is basically them just putting off the decision. They just don't want to make the decision today. And most of the time it's because they don't want to make a mistake. Most people hate making decisions because they hate making mistakes, right? So they're just going to avoid it. I need to think about it, right? They're putting it off. So here's kind of what you want to do here. This one, I'm borrowing stuff from all the best salespeople. This is from Jeremy Miner, right? Great artist, great artist steal, whatever the quote is. Who cares? Anyway, so I need to think about it. Okay, no, that makes perfect sense. I guess, what's your time frame on getting back to me in the next day or two, just to see if I'd be available for you? So you're going to go to set an appointment here, right? Now bear with me. The reason why is because it's going to take all of the pressure off of the sale. They think they're off the hook. So what time, when in the next day or two, what's your time frame on getting back to me in the next day or two to see if I'd be available? Oh, well, give me 2 days. Okay, yeah. Well, I'm not really sure if I could just be randomly available like that with my schedule. What I can do is I'm going to pull up my calendar so we can book a specific time. That way you don't have to chase me down and vice versa. Are you more of an evening or an afternoon person? Here, you're just going to go to set an appointment. Again, that 2 option, morning or afternoon, 5 or 7, whatever it is, right? Set that time. Okay, and yeah, before I jump off here, just so I know what to go over on our call together, what was it you were more curious about? Was it the price of the program or how the program worked, right? Now, here is where you're uncovering what the objection actually is, right? So in this case, most of the time they're going to say, oh, well, the price is just really expensive. Or, well, it's the price and how it works, which means they have no idea what you're even talking about. Whenever someone says I need to think about it, it's usually just a smokescreen for another objection. It's a smokescreen for uncertainty. So when you ask it this way and you take the pressure off, they're more likely to tell you the real reason, which then you can attack, which most of the time will be an objection hop, go to the other thing, and start kind of drilling that down until you get them to be able to go through the application. So if they keep objecting, they're like, oh, well, it's both, or, it's not any of that. I just need to think about it. Yeah, no, of course. I think that makes perfect sense. I guess I'm just wondering, because everyone else in your area has kind of lunged at this opportunity. Everyone else I've talked to all week, with everything we went over with you having the COPD and being 71, this is the most amount of coverage for the lowest price you can get. Notice where I'm putting the emphasis. The most amount of coverage for the lowest price you can get. I apologize if I messed up, but where did I go wrong in explaining this? Right? Now I'm taking we call it falling on the sword. So I'm saying this is so good. This is the best option you can get that I must have messed up. So where did I mess up? Here, sometimes they will uncover the actual reason. And again, they're letting their guard down, because the first time we try to get them to let their guard down with the appointment. Now we're falling on the sword to try to get them to let their guard down and tell us what the root objection is. If they don't, now we're going to go back to trying to set the appointment. Okay, no, I totally understand. Just so I know when I get back with you, how long do you think you'll need to think it over, right? They've kind of already told you a day or two. Sometimes they'll say like a week here, or they'll just stick with the previous answer. Okay, and yeah, perfect. It sounds to me like you kind of just want to make an informed decision. Is that right? And so here we're going with the same kind of objection overcome we did with the authority others, like I need to talk to my wife. It seems to me like you just want to make an informed decision. Obviously, they're going to answer yes. Okay, so why don't we do this? Because right now, without filling out an application to see if you'd even get approved, we don't really have anything to think over yet. So we're going through that exact same objection overcome. Get the policy sent to you in the mail, and we'll space the first payment out until the blank, so that you have plenty of time to think it over and start confirming the information. If they keep objecting there, now we're going to go into the story time, which, again, link below this video to see an example of a story. If that doesn't work, we're going to go for the price drop. So that is how to overcome every single life insurance objection. As you guys can see, I've listed here at the bottom a couple of the different objections and like which thing they would fall into. So what I want you guys to do going forward, whenever you get an objection, start to kind of categorize in your mind. Is this circumstances? Is this others? Is this self? And then you can start to kind of figure out, hey, am I getting closer to the root objection? Am I getting closer to the center of the onion? Now, how to study this? Basically, you're going to want to go through and role play with someone else and have them object, and then keep going down with the objection ammo until you have each layer, each bullet in the chamber kind of memorized, so that you can use this on your next sales call.